Going to go quickly across to Ambassador Atul Keshap. Ambassador Keshap, thanks very much for being with us. You've really driven the India-United States relationship for a period of time. You are now, of course, a retired American diplomat. I'll ask you the same question that I was asking Ben. Do you expect the relationship between India and America to stay put? Do you expect it to progress, or do you perhaps feel that there may be problems?
Well, I think, Vishnu, that all three are possible. But generally speaking, I would agree with Ben that President Trump and Prime Minister Modi have a very strong personal equation. That counts for a lot in international relations. More importantly, we have an extraordinarily strong people-to-people relationship. We have shared strategic values. We have an increasingly rapid technological convergence. And of course, the economic ties are growing rather well. So I'm pretty confident and pretty bullish about U.S.-India relations. The one thing I would mention is that President Trump and his top advisors, including Treasury Secretary nominee Bessant and others, Lighthizer, Navarro, et cetera, have spoken very clearly about the need for balanced trade between the United States and its friends and partners around the world. And that includes India. And so one thing that we've suggested to Indian friends is that we should take a look at this and make sure that any structural imbalances get resolved. Because at the end of the day, friends have to have a balanced relationship. And so there are steps that India can take. We've issued a report, USIBC, on ways that we can win together. And one of these includes looking specifically at how we can ensure more free and balanced trade between the United States and India.
Ambassador Keshap, the relationship between India and the last couple of months has seen incredible progress when it comes to ISET, emerging and critical new technologies. Part of that mission is the semiconductor mission. And that has to do a great deal with geopolitics, the fact that the sources of semiconductors are very limited. It's Taiwan to a large extent, which faces the shadow of China at this juncture. How important is that semiconductor mission in driving the economic relationship between our countries?
Well, it's extremely important. Look, ours are both great democracies. We are geographies of trust. We trust one another, and we have the same shared strategic apprehensions about the Indo-Pacific, as you just mentioned in your question. So what USIBC wants to do, and it's in our report that we've just issued, is intensify the semiconductor and electronics collaboration, expand and deepen the artificial intelligence and quantum cooperation, bracket off that ISET set of issues as something that is at the core of the U.S.-India relationship, and then even expand it, for instance, to include ensuring resilient and secure supply chains for life sciences, for pharmaceuticals, for medical devices, so that we immunize ourselves from risk and that we ensure that our supply chains remain at service to our people in times of any need or any strategic lack of predictability. So these are steps where the governments can work together. And what we've called for is that both governments be ambitious about bilateral agreements that can help enhance this vision. For instance, you could have a mutual recognition of standards and testing for electronic components that would help intensify the movement of supply chains in a way that is more secure. You could have a digital services agreement. You could have so many other different agreements that would intensify the U.S.-India cooperation in a way that's good for both of our people and ensures our security long haul.
Ambassador Keshap, I'm going to introduce somebody who you know very well, Ambassador Taranjit Sandhu. He was former ambassador of India to the United States. He was ambassador there till quite recently. Ambassador Sandhu, thanks very much for joining us. In just the last couple of days, there's been an effort in the United States to change some of the rules around nuclear liability to potentially allow American nuclear firms to get into India. Now, the civil nuclear deal between India and America is, in a sense, the bedrock of the larger strategic relationship between our two countries, but it's never really been realized to the extent that America would like or India would like. With the changes that Biden spoke about in the last couple of days, or his administration spoke about in the last couple of days, do you believe that the civil nuclear sector could be strengthened?
So firstly, I'd like to say hello to my good friend Atul. And, we've served together a number of places, including in Sri Lanka. So wonderful to see you here. In fact, what Atul was saying to an extent, energy is one of the areas where President Trump is going to take a lot of interest. And in fact, you can extend it here and mention about gas, LNG. And, that aspect actually developed big time during Trump 1.0. So in the same sense, nuclear also is a very important option because you know that in India, the energy requirements are tremendous. So therefore, this is a positive development. And I'm sure Trump 2.0 will further take it from there.
Ambassador Keshav, I know you have to leave, so I'm just going to go through. I've been going through what the US-India Business Council has just released, and I just want to talk about the defense aspect. And I must say that, as a journalist of more than 29 years and essentially covering defense, I have seen a great deal of skepticism 20, 25 years back between India and America that no way would this relationship progress. Now we are talking about exchanging. We're talking about building American jet engines in India. Drive us through that process of building trust between the two countries through the foundational agreements. Both of you ambassadors have been so closely associated with that. There must have been moments when you felt that, India is not going to do it. India felt, nope, Washington is not going to agree with what we're saying. So, Ambassador Keshav, to you first, give and share with us now, honestly, for the first time, what were some of the most trying moments in pushing the relationship?
Well, first of all, let me greet my dear friend, Ambassador Taranjeet Singh Sandhu. It's a delight to see him and you, Vishnu. Trying moments happen all the time. And one of the jobs of the bureaucrats and political leaders on both sides is to make sure that we overcome these problems. Because at the end of the day, the United States and India are compelled toward convergence. We are diverse democracies. We face the same challenges. We have the same problems around the world in certain geographies. And so we have to overcome these problems. And there have been moments throughout the past, during the nuclear deal era, during the foundational agreements era, where we have overcome differences of opinion by working together as friends. And there are always irritants as well. And there's always a back channel. There's always quiet efforts to overcome these things and to move the relationship forward. So for instance, I agree with Ambassador Sandhu about oil and gas. I think those are excellent areas. Nuclear as well, particularly modular nuclear. These are areas of tremendous opportunity between the US and India, and oil and gas in particular would help address the structural trade deficit. But on defense, not only is the engine deal important and the drone deal important and all the other acquisitions that have already happened, but I personally would love to see 100 American F-15s or F-16s or F-35s flying in the Indian inventory. It would enhance India's strategic deterrence so much. It would enhance our interoperability. It would address the trade deficit. It would bring our countries closer together, enhance trust between our countries, and it's one of the recommendations in the document. So look, there's plenty of opportunity here. This is where Washington and Delhi have to have clear conversations. I'm delighted Foreign Minister Jaishankar is in Washington today for a Quad summit. That is a very strong signal of continuity on the strategic front that we are having a Quad summit on day one of the Trump administration. It sends a strong message to the Indo-Pacific, and that is a basis on which we can continue to build over 25 years of strategic, economic, and technological convergence.
Ambassador Sandhu, let me put that same question to you. Were there moments, Ambassador Keshav was being the diplomat that he is. My question was quite specific. Were there moments in building this relationship where you felt that no, it was just not going to happen, the differences with America were too strong?
I think in all honesty, Ambassador Keshav and I have been involved with this relationship for more than 25 years now. And we have the advantage of sitting today and looking back. And if we look that way, I think we are in a much more secure, and as Atul just mentioned, that there is what is the foundation of confidence today. So one has to be, in the sense, you have to measure it against what it was earlier. And therefore, we have moved a lot. And just as he has said, the very fact that one of the first actions of the new Secretary of State is going to be the Quad Summit speaks volumes. But this doesn't mean that there is not much to be done, as I'm sure Atul's report has highlighted a lot. But the point being that there is a solid future for both the countries together. And in a climate where international situation is rather difficult and the friendship, the partnership, I would say, between United States and India would certainly play a long way. And in that, strategic side is there, energy is there, technology is there, education and knowledge partnership is there. You can touch any one of them. But of course, today is a good day. You are having a new president sworn in. Actually, President Trump is not new to India because we have seen in the 45th presidency, and I personally recall with fondness, and Atul was part of the government then, when he visited India in 2020 February. So therefore, I'm sure I'm reflecting our both confidence that this relationship is bound to deepen. And I'm sure it will cover a lot of areas which you have also touched upon and the USIBC report mentions.
All right, well, let me just go across now. And I'm joined by Clifford Young and Jonah Blank and Puneet Ahluwalia. Thank you all very much for being with us. Puneet, let me come to you first. Is this, with the Trump presidency, going to be part of a fundamental reset in terms of the values in America? That, you know, I mean, what we've associated with the Democrats is going to change fundamentally. There are going to be changes in terms of the attitude to immigrants. There are going to be changes to people on the issue of, potentially on the issue of abortion as well. There are going to be changes in other respects. Do you feel that this is America entering a cultural reset?
Well, you're looking at a revolution of common sense, as President Trump has said. So I think we're looking at changes in all facets, a reset. Looking at the DE, the wokeism, the transgender issues, which is in sports, more importantly, immigration, the rule of law, that has to be initiated, energy independence, economic upswing, reassessing our partnership with China, Mexico, and Canada, and other nations. So I believe, and I'm very optimistic, President Trump is going to go on forward and do what needs to be done to set America in the trajectory of growth and vitality. So very positive, very optimistic. And we can see the Trump effect all over Washington, D.C. and the rest of the nation as they're celebrating his inauguration. So yes, there is going to be a reset, and a common sense revolution is on its way.
Jonah Blank, in terms of Trump's picks for some of the key posts, how do you see that going? And a lot of the individuals that he's picked are, you know, I mean, successful at one level, controversial at another level, none more than perhaps Elon Musk. How do you see the role of Elon Musk in the next administration going?
Well, that's going to be a huge question because you have the world's richest human being explicitly committed to the most radical political program we've seen in the US in generations. He's already said that he will fund primary challenges to any Republicans who oppose Mr. Trump's appointments, and we've already seen that happen. Senator Joni Ernst, who had the ability to block Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense, switched her position after a real threat to primary her. We're going to see a lot more of this. And Elon Musk, to be clear, is not in the U.S. government and is not going to enter U.S. government, but he right now has more influence over U.S. government than really possibly anyone other than the president himself.
Clifford Young, your thoughts on, you know, what some of the American leaders are going to shape up to do potentially. We've got Kash Patel, for example, who's going to have a huge role in the cleanup process. Give us your sense of what the new administration is going to prioritize. Jonah, can you hear me?
I
Sorry,
can.
Clifford, can you hear me? Yeah, so no, just your sense of the new administration, the leaders shaping up. Could you give us a sense of what you think or how you think that's going to look like? All right, we'll try and fix that line in just a little while from now. Let me go across to Puneet Ahluwalia, who's been watching very, very closely. I'll take that same question across to you. In terms of Trump's picks for some of the top posts, what do they bring to the table?
If you see, it's a diverse group of people he has brought on, from the Democrats to people who have been on his side, and also engaging with the multifacets, people with expertise. So I think he's brought the best team in town who's going to do what is needed to energize the economy and, most importantly, implement his vision. Because mind you, he's only got 4 years to really have this tectonic shift that he's envisioned for America. And I believe he's going to do that. At the same time, the weaponization of the DOJ, that's the reason Cash is there to fix that. And we have Marco Rubio, exceptional Secretary of State choice, who knows what the challenges on the international field is because he served on the Senate committees. So I think, and of course, RFK Jr., a Democrat, lifelong Democrat with a legacy of the Kennedys. I think he's brought a great team in place, and I feel very strong. And the other thing which I heard earlier in your conversation, Washington changes every 2 or 4 years. We cannot just sit on the laurels of a relationship that's built. You have to work on it on a daily basis because we have members of Congress who are coming in and the ones who are going out. There's always influencers. The winds are blowing from different sides and they change. And that's the reason it's so important to be engaged all the time. You just can't sit on a relationship. And that relationship needs a lot of hard work, a commitment that needs to be done, from allies to friendships to partners. These are all different terminologies in Washington. And then we look at who's really going to sit on that side when we need your help or you need our help, we're there for you. And that's how President Trump is going to look at the bottom line. And that's why you see so many CEOs who had not participated in his first election are all lining up and supporting President Trump because they see where the wind is blowing. And most importantly, there's hardly any pushback against President Trump because there's a big kumbaya here going on because they saw the support President Trump got from the American people, just not from the patriots, who I call the Republicans or the conservatives, but also the Hispanics, the blacks, the single mothers, the women vote, the kids, and the children. You know, we had a diversity of people who came out and supported President Trump. So it's a phenomenal win here, and a Trump effect is all over Washington and America.
All right, let me go back to Clifford Young. He can hear us now. I just wanted to, as we bring in these live images from Washington, D.C., we can see, it's many of the people we were talking about earlier on the program on your screens at this stage. But Clifford Young, let me just talk about some of the key issues that is on Trump's agenda. Mass deportations. How do you see this playing out?
Well, we've just come out of the field with polling. We've been tracking this over the last months, and there is broad-based support for deportation, especially illegal immigrants. Trump and the Trump administration will find support there.
Yes.
But it's important to emphasize or make the caveat that support isn't absolute, right? Americans don't support it in every case, in every instance. If you break up families, if it hurts the economy, that's when it begins to sort of weaken. But when it comes to the policy writ large, there's a lot of support, a lot of frustration in America for having illegal immigrants here. They're not seen as going to the benefit of America as a whole.
Well, the images that you see on your screen do tell a story. We've got Barack Obama walking in and no Michelle Obama there with him, at least. We haven't seen her as yet. We've seen President Bush earlier on as well. The swearing-in ceremony is going to be beginning in a little while from now. We've seen many of the top American leaders arriving at Capitol Hill. So it's going to be very, very interesting in the next 1 hour of this Trump takeover. Let me just quickly go back to Jonah Blank. Let's talk about some of the other key issues. One of them has been restricting birthright citizenship. Trump has sought to restrict who is eligible for U.S. citizenship. U.S. citizenship is one of the most sought after citizenships anywhere in the world. Do you expect that to be a policy priority of his?
Yes, he's already said so. He's already said that he's going to have this as a day one executive order. Now, let's remember, he has no power to do this. Under the U.S. Constitution, any person who is born in the United States and who is not the child of a diplomat is a U.S. citizen. But he can still order his officials to deport people and let the courts figure it out later. He did that in his first term. We all remember the kids in cages. We all remember the separated families. He's explicitly said he's going to do the same thing right now for families whose children are American citizens, and he's just going to ignore that. Let's remember that he has a mandate for none of this. He has the narrowest popular vote margin of any president in a quarter century. And people were not voting for putting kids in cages or throwing out American citizens. They voted for bringing the price of groceries down, which Trump has already admitted he's not going to do. They voted on the basis of inflation, which every democracy has suffered since the COVID epidemic. And most countries that have had elections, the incumbent power has lost. In India, even a very popular prime minister, Narendra Modi, lost his majority and has to rely on a coalition now. So this program that he's going to put in this afternoon is not what the American people voted for at all.
Jonah, stop scaring people, please. That's
all right. Well,
he's not even taking the oath.
Fair enough. The Modi government, by the way, is quite strong as it is in India. But be that as it may, Puneet had a point to make. Go ahead.
Well, Jonah, he's not even taken the oath yet. Is it me or gentleman next
Puneet,
to me
go ahead.
On the screen? Well,
go for it.
President Trump hasn't even taken the oath. And we are trying to strike fear in people. Most importantly, yes, immigration was a big, huge issue. Rule of law was a big concern for Americans. That's the reason why President Trump, in one of the executive orders, is sending folks down the border to ensure that our nation is safe. We have almost 70 to 80,000 people who we don't know are in our country. What's their without any background check. So there's a major concern on our safety and security, just not of Americans, but the people who are here from all over the world. So it's important to fix that issue. At the same time, on the energy independence, inflation, he's a business person. He has put a team together and he has the mandate. For some reason, Jonah doesn't seem to realize that. So I think what President Trump has heard what the American people want and is going to implement that aspect of doing what needs to be done, which the Biden administration completely failed on doing it. So we need to control the cartels. We need to find ways to ensure there's peace around the world. And that's the reason why we have peace in the Middle East today, or working towards peace. We'll surely find a way to have peace with Russia in Ukraine, because that's another important facet. China is another important concern in South China Sea. And that's the reason why President Trump wants to take a visit to China in the first year. So we're looking at most positive things in process, and Jonah's striking fear in all of us for no reason.
Well, I will give Jonah the opportunity to respond, but I just, go ahead.
Yeah, I just add on the polling side that on the birthright citizenship, only a minority of Americans are in support of overturning it, something like 40%. Strong support with the Republican base. You got a majority of Republicans in favor of it. That's a weaker point when it comes to immigration. Again, going back to my initial point, there's broad-based support for deporting illegal immigrants who are criminals. 2/3 of Americans agree with that specific point. So there is support there that isn't just the Republican base. There are Democrats that support that. There are independents, but it's a very fragile support, because when you start separating families, you begin to sort of affect the economy. Americans lose their bluster for that specific policy. So on the one hand, broad-based support generally in specific cases, but there's some caveats there.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank all of you very much for being with us. Let's just go back to the images from Capitol Hill. We can see several former presidents arriving over there. The Trump swearing in, it's all happening now. He will be sworn in a little more than half an hour from now.